This week on Coffee Talk, we're talking about what?
This weak ass coffee mug. Look at this thing.
I know it broke, and I'm not ready to let it go.
Totally awesome.
It's totally awesome.
Not so awesome anymore.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine.
Sorry, I interrupted.
And these are like the old school Ninja Turtles. They're like very happy and smiley. They're not weird looking.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hate the new Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't say hate. I dislike
Ninja
Ninja Turtles, the new ones. Anyways, Coffee Talk.
When you have 6-year-olds.
Coffee Talk. Yes. So this week
This week, how to break through your plateaus in training and use nutrition to achieve your goals.
Yeah.
What?
You can't out-train or out-exercise or run or jog a poor diet. So we're going to talk about the value of paying attention to your food and kind of the two main approaches that we take at Elevate when we are starting to talk to people about changing their habits and how to reach their goals. And
Supplements.
Yeah,
right?
Sups. Look at the last episode.
Watch last week because we did talk about supplement in depth. We had a fun time with Jack from 10 Performance.
Mm-hmm.
So watch that, and we talked a lot about setting a good foundation of nutrition first, but we didn't go into details of what that means. So this week, we will cover that and talk about how to approach nutrition and really like forming good habits.
Yeah.
And Nicole is
right.
the master here at Elevate of that.
So I think that there are two, at least in my opinion, through working with people over the years, there are two main approaches that I use to take with working with clients and the members of Elevate. There is the habit-based approach to changing your eating habits and over time formulating your ideal perfect diet because everyone's so different. And then there's going straight to the more advanced methods of counting your macronutrients. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of different interpretations of what a macronutrient approach is. IFYM, flexible dieting is a lot of the common terminology we hear. But I think it's really important to take the approach of keeping an open mind and understanding that there are no black and white answers when it comes to the body, whether it's training, whether it's, sleep cycles, hormones, nutrition. There's no one size fits all approach. And I think that with everyone, no matter what someone says, what expert may claim, whatever, it's all very experimental. So we can kind of figure out what your foundation, what your starting place is based on where you are and where you want to go. But you have to apply whatever concepts you're doing consistently for 2 or 3 weeks before you know what's working. So regardless of what diet or protocol or methods you're using, just know that you have to be consistent with it in order to figure out if it works or if it doesn't work.
Yeah, and bar none, no matter how much work you do in the gym, there's gonna be a barrier if your food's not there.
It's your foundation.
Nutrition's the fastest way to get towards results. We've had people that only focused on nutrition, not so much on movement, and had huge results. So if somebody, a lot of people come to us not knowing where to start with food. They don't, maybe they don't know how to cook. They don't really know what to eat. They eat pretty clean.
Okay, I haven't had a carb since 2004.
Which usually is not correct.
I
eat pretty good.
What does that mean?
Check these out. See these? See these boys? This is what I live with every day. I lather this up with Kiehl's in the shower.
And it's I had a half an apple for breakfast and a banana for dinner.
You want to touch this shit? No. You want to touch these bad boys? Sorry, not gonna happen.
So what's a good way to start? What would be just something that does kind of fit for almost everybody, where you can just say, let's start here. What's step one?
So the first thing that I think is not only good for me as kind of the expert trying to help them, but for someone personally to bring more awareness to what their habits are. A lot of people assume they're doing something or assume they're not doing something. They really just have no idea. So journaling for 3 to 4 days and figuring out what your habits, what your routine is like it's probably going to be the most valuable thing for you in the beginning. So literally writing down everything from the moment you wake up, the time you wake up, how was your sleep? Write it down. Do you feel, kind of restful? Do you feel energized when you wake up, or are you exhausted? Okay, that's an indication we have to work on another kind of lifestyle thing. That's another talk.
Yeah, and that's a good point, writing down how you feel at that moment.
How you feel. Do you feel well? Do you feel super sore? Whatever it is. When you wake up, do you drink coffee right away? Or do you drink water? Okay, do you eat breakfast right away? What are you eating for breakfast? What are the types of foods? Relative, what's the portion size? Everything that you eat and drink, and at the times at which you consume those things, write it down.
Yeah.
We need to know.
Don't forget about
patterns.
what you drink. That's a big part of it too.
Yeah, whether it's coffee, whether it's water, whether it's energy drink, alcohol, smoothie, whatever, mocha, choca, frappuccino.
Yeah.
Those things all have an effect in your body composition and your energy levels and health. So journaling is the best thing for both me, your coach, and for you to kind of bring some awareness to what your habits are.
It can be eye-opening just seeing what you ate or didn't eat throughout the day. A lot of times, like, my list is pretty short.
Yeah. So if someone is very new to starting to pay attention to their eating habits, they've never really paid much attention to the types of foods they're eating, they have no idea about portions or what even a good source of protein is, we'll start with a journal, and then I'll pick out the biggest glaring deficiency. And most people don't drink enough water. Most people don't drink enough water, especially being in Florida where we sweat a lot. We have a kind of higher or hotter climate.
It's so damn hot. Milk was a bad choice.
It's very humid, so we sweat a lot. Plus, we're exercising, so we're already kind of at the lower end of having enough liquids in us. So a good place to start with that would be half your body weight in ounces of water per day as a minimum. That does not include the time that you're at the gym drinking water during your workout.
Yeah, it's a lot of water.
Right. So the easiest way to do that is to invest a little bit of money in a nice water bottle so you're not having to fill it up 14 times. Don't get a tiny one. Don't get something made out of plastic and crappy materials. Invest, put some money into it. It's worth it. Water is important.
Just have it with you.
You will die without enough
water. If you have a desk job, have it, have it right in front of you. So you don't, because a lot of people are like, oh, I just forget, water coolers down the hall. Just have it right there on your desk.
Water is super important. And more often than not, when we see people when they first start working out, when they get dizzy or when they start to feel sick, food may be an issue, but for the most part, it's because they're dehydrated.
Yeah.
So water, start there. That's the easiest thing to fix without having to worry about calories or food or anything like that. Water
so would you say, okay, not only drinking water, but maybe replacing what you are drinking with water, like if it's soda or juice.
Milk.
And that goes into the habit-based approach of things, right? If you start doing enough of the good things, they'll start replacing the habits that we need to get rid of. So instead of focusing on the negatives, what you need to get rid of and avoid, focus on the things that you should be doing. And if you do those things often enough, like drinking enough water, you won't have enough time or space to drink the other crappy stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So drink plenty of water. You eat plenty of protein and vegetables. You won't have, the place in the spot on your plate or the time in your day or the cravings to eat the other bad stuff. So really just focus on what you can add and the positives in your habits versus avoiding certain things and what to cut out. But water is number one.
What's the other big one? So they're journaling. Mm-hmm. They're starting with drinking enough water. Yep. What's the other big one? The
second biggest deficiency I see, especially with people who do resistance training, is protein.
Hey, I got you guys a protein shake.
Awesome. I love protein.
I know you love protein. I love protein too.
Protein is huge, and it is so important to a lot of different functions in our body.
Yeah, protein rocks. Are you guys talking about protein? I love protein.
Not just getting jacked and yoked and getting strong.
I love protein too.
We know you love protein. Protein rocks.
Awesome.
But just on a very hormonal level, protein is very, very important for...
Yeah, I don't want to get bulky. I eat like a little bit of protein and then just...
Right.
I get huge.
Protein rocks. Protein. 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 Protein.
Protein. Protein.
And again, it just goes back to people just not even being aware. Like a lot of people assume they're eating plenty of protein. They journal and they find out, oh, I actually didn't eat any protein for breakfast. I just had oatmeal or cereal. Okay,
or
there's nothing in
one
that.
Egg.
Or one egg. Like
weak.
That's not enough.
Totally weak.
I had a salad for lunch with a little bit of chicken. Like you had an ounce of chicken. That's not sufficient.
No.
Then they don't really eat throughout the day. And then dinner is probably their biggest meal and it's probably where they have the most amount of protein. So they usually have like one solid meal of protein a day, but most people don't get enough protein, especially women. There's nothing wrong with eating great quality sources of protein. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can get that from meats. If you're going to do red meat, get it from locally sourced grass-fed cows. Okay, if you're
go direct to the source. Like meat, eggs, that kind of stuff. Not a special K bar that says it has 4 grams of protein. That does nothing.
I had to pick up that special K 90-calorie chocolatey pretzel joint. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
We need a good chunk of protein.
Right.
If you don't eat meat, then
from a natural
Greek
source.
yogurt or whatever. Like, get the protein.
Sure. And if you're a vegetarian or vegan, there are ways to supplement. It's possible to meet your protein requirements without meat. It absolutely is. It's harder, but if you do your research, which you should, those are things you need to really pay attention to, especially being a vegan or a vegetarian. They tend to be lower in the healthy fats, and that's kind of another talk. But there's ways to get plenty of protein in with the right kind of combination of vegetables and grains and legumes and stuff like that.
So how much protein? Like
most people do well with around a gram of protein per pound of body weight.
Protein rocks.
Awesome.
Okay.
What if you have like a lot of fat to lose? Like,
so
if
if you
I'm
have
40 pounds overweight.
Right. If you have a lot of fat to lose, that would be more on the 0.8 or going towards a gram of lean body mass. Okay. So if you happen to know your body fat percentage, which you would if you're at Elevate because we test your body composition, we would be able to know how much lean muscle mass or lean mass you have in your body. So if you are significantly overweight, have a much higher percentage of body fat, we would then move that protein down to 1 gram per pound of lean mass, not body weight. Okay, because that could be a huge amount of.
So if you don't know, maybe estimate.
Yeah.
A lot of people have higher body fat percentage than they think. So, if you're in kind of that obese category, it may be 35% body fat.
Right.
So that's kind
But without getting into the tedious of tracking and counting calories and macronutrients, because a lot of people aren't there, an easy way to get enough protein is every time you eat, you should be eating around every 4 hours or so, just to keep it simple, you should have a portion of protein.
So what can I do for breakfast? Because I really don't get my breakfast game on and popping like that in the morning. I'm always rushing around taking care of business.
And that portion should be about the equivalent of the palm of your hand.
Got some core power, I have some glucerna, and I have that special K, baby.
So thickness and diameter.
Thickness, not fingers, and not a clenched fist, but the palm of your hand minus the fingers, thickness and diameter. You should, for women, usually have one of those. Men have 2.
Move all them goodies around.
Every time you eat, whether it's a snack or whether it's a full-blown meal, you should have protein all throughout the day, every time you eat, every couple of hours.
And if you're a bigger person, you're probably going to have a bigger hand, so you need more protein. It's sort of self-regulating.
First thing first, man. Core power to me, chocolate milk with tap water.
Right, and it's not perfect, right? You may not get in the exact amount of protein, to get that optimal body composition to be shredded. We're not talking about being shredded. We're just talking about getting you functioning and getting you well on your way to feeling better, performing better, improving that body composition. So water is one, protein is next. And then I would say, honestly, it kind of goes back to the protein, eating frequently enough. A lot of people are under eating. And when I start talking about this with them after looking at their journal, we realize there are a lot of big gaps in people's day when they're not eating. They either skip breakfast or they eat one small breakfast and it's only 5 hours later until they're eating a small lunch, right? Or they have big gaps in their day. And I understand we're busy, modern lifestyles, go, go, go. We're taking care of everyone. We have a lot of responsibilities. But at the same time, you need to prioritize taking care of yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, you won't be in any shape to take care of anyone else or to feel as great as you could be. So
everybody has this resting metabolic rate where your body, you just need this baseline of calories to function.
Right.
Just to meet your normal function at rest.
Right.
And if you add activity on top of that, you need even more. Right. So if you're not even meeting that minimum demand, then not only are you catabolic, but everything's just kind of starting to shut down.
Right.
And it's like, no wonder why you don't have energy throughout the day. No wonder why you can't lose body fat. Your body is trying to store that stuff away however it can, because it's assuming that it's just being starved, very slowly starved. So really pay attention. The journaling is huge.
And not that eating every 3 or 4 hours, there's nothing magical about that, right? There's nothing that'll magically happen if you eat on the every 3rd hour, but it's just about getting enough food in your system. Most people don't eat enough. So if I tell them every 3 or 4 hours, you got to be eating some protein. That usually takes care of that issue.
Yeah.
Without having to dive into the more advanced methods of tracking calories and macros. So eating every 3 or 4 hours. When you do so, eating a palm, 1 palm for ladies, 2 palmfuls for guys every time you do, even if it's a snack or not. And then getting enough water. That's going to be really, really huge.
And that can be tough to get used to, so you just ramp it up gradually, because if you're not used to eating much and then you go to eating what you should be eating, not eating enough, it can be kind of tough to do at first. So you'll have to sort of ramp that up, over the course of a couple weeks probably.
Sure.
So we've got water and protein, eating enough calories throughout the day. Is there any kind of glaring stuff other than that? I mean, that seems like a good way to start.
Yeah, there's kind of 6 or 7 main habits that you can start to develop over time to get you to the ideal intake. And it's all very experimental. So I've kind of created this system at Elevate where a lot of people that are beginning to learn more about their food and nutrition and paying attention, they get a habit or behavior introduced to them 1 week at a time. And that doesn't necessarily mean that following week they're going to be ready to do the habit or do that next behavior, but they can at least get an understanding of what's to come, kind of the end game, the habits that we want to develop. So the first couple are water, eating mindfully, and that's kind of like a hot button right now, a hot word or hot phrase, mindfulness. But it's literally taking the time to pay attention to the way your food tastes, like the texture, the flavor, putting your phone down, not trying to multitask when you're eating, like being present with your food, enjoying the experience, actually tasting what you're eating, and taking enough time to where your gut and your brain has enough time to communicate to each other, whether you're satiated or not. It takes about 20 minutes for that mechanism to kick in and for the communication to happen back and forth between the gut and the brain, for your gut to tell the brain, okay, I'm full, I've had enough food. But most people scarf their food without paying any attention to it, and they're done in 10 minutes, 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So learning how to be more mindful and being more present, engaging in conversation with people around you, putting your fork down after 2 or 3 bites. A lot of people never put their fork down, right? They're just like inhaling. Right. And it's so easy to do because we're just go.
Yeah.
But this is just a part of that paying attention, right? And started to change your habits and your approach to eating and developing a really good relationship with food. Like, you cook the food, you bought it or paid for whatever, taste it, enjoy it. Take the time to enjoy your meal. And that way you don't feel like you missed out on anything. So being more mindful with every meal. I know not everyone can sit down and take a half hour every 3 or 4 minutes or 4 hours to eat, but just paying more attention, getting in more protein, carbohydrates. That's a big topic, and carbs and fats are both 2 of the main macronutrients that have been demonized back and forth over the years. A lot of people believe in super low carb diets, right? Or super high carb, low fat, or low fat, or ketogenic, carb cycling, intermittent fasting, all these different protocols. And, a lot of people have success with a lot of different approaches to eating and diet. But you have to find what works for you, what's sustainable, what's practical, and really what supports 3 main things, right? Your body composition, so being of healthy body fat percentage, having enough muscle, your health, and your performance. So you can have all 3 with the right diet, and those should all be long-term, for life approaches and habits that you're working towards mastering. So you should never be thinking about on or off a diet again.
How does this conform with your New Year's resolution? Carbohydrates, sugary tomato paste, processed dairy.
That leads to disordered eating.
So if we've set kind of the foundation, we have the basics, the things that we've already talked about. If you're sort of past that, you've got that stuff in check, and we want to take it a little more, refine it a little more, improve our performance a little bit more, get that little extra bit leaner.
Yeah.
What would be the next step for that?
Then macro, really honing in on the exact allotment of macronutrients, which are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats that you need every single day, and trying to hit those targets every single day. But we'll just back up and briefly touch on kind of the habit-based approach to the carbohydrates. So we got the protein. I'd say as far as a habit-based approach, keep it simple. Try to do a cupped handful of carbohydrates, starch, so like potatoes, rice, oats, a slice of bread. You can do that at most of your meals, and you try to center those starches around your workout, pre and post, to begin.
Okay.
All right, you master that. You keep that very, very simple. Fats, as far as using the palm method that we're kind of sticking with, a thumbful of fats, right? So it could be, that's like a tablespoon or so of cooking oil or dressing, butter, cheese, stuff like that. So the palm method is very simple. I'll post a link on the palm method and how to use it if you're more interested in that, but it's a very easy way to approach being mindful of your food and developing right portions and stuff like that. But if you want to take it to the next level and get a lot more precise and you've mastered those basics, then we take a more advanced method of calculating exactly how many calories you need, and of those calories, where are they coming from? How many proteins, how many carbohydrates, and how many fats? And that's what we call a macronutrient approach, or if it fits your macros.
So that's something you have to be a little more focused on, like measuring, weighing.
Right. It can be very
specific.
tedious, and like anything else, training should be progressive, right? You shouldn't try to do a 300-pound back squat if you can't ear squat well. You certainly, I don't think, should dive into a macro approach to food when you don't even understand what protein is and where it comes from.
Yeah.
Okay. So master the basics, then we move on to this more advanced protocol. And these are all based on mathematical equations. So with us, we have the benefit of, at Elevate, testing people's body composition. And from that, we can determine what their basal metabolic rate is. So what Taylor was talking about, kind of your baseline, your BMR, is the minimum amount of calories your body needs just to function, like just to support involuntary things like being alive, breathing. That BMR does not account for added activity. So that doesn't account for you digesting your food, you moving around, you walking, you exercising. So those are all added energy demands that we need to account for when we're talking about what is your target calorie goal every day. So we take that BMR and we apply an activity multiplier to that. Now, most people get their activity levels wrong. I think this is where when people try to calculate their own macros, they kind of mess it up. Everyone assumes that they're probably way more active than they are when they have a desk job and they're only, let's say, doing CrossFit classes 3 times a week for an hour. That's not super active, okay? That's lightly active.
It's 1 out of 24 hours a day.
Right, yeah. So
3 times a week.
Making sure that you have that activity level honed in and it's accurate. You're not overestimating the amount of calories that you need to support yourself. I'll put that link in there as well, kind of the tier, that multiplier. So we apply that multiplier. That will give us your total daily energy expenditure, your TDEE. So that number tells us if you were to consume, let's say we figured out it was 2,000 calories. So for me, if I were to consume 2,000 calories, that's my TDEE. If I were to eat that, my body would stay the same.
So maintain,
right? Maintenance, as long as the activity level stays the same and everything else. So if we want to see change in our body, we have to deviate from that number. If I want to gain muscle, get bigger, gain weight, I have to be at a surplus from that TDEE. If we want to lose body fat, then we have to be at a deficit. And with most CrossFitters, or most people doing high intensity exercise, athletes, very performance driven, focused on performing very well at a high level during those exercise, a lot of people try to do too much of a calorie deficit. And that deficit can be created by subtracting calories from your diet. It could also be created by doing more activity, or you can do a combination of both. So I would say for most people, if they're kind of average body composition, they have some body fat to lose. Let's say for women, they're over 25% body fat. For men, they're over 20% body fat. You can create that deficit with a combination of subtracting some calories and adding a little more activity. A little more. I'm not saying do 2-a-days every day.
It could just be a long walk.
It could be, 2 extra days of some sprints.
Yeah.
That could be great, combined with a 250 calorie deficit from that TDEE.
Okay.
Or if you don't have time to add more activity to your schedule or your day, you can simply just create that deficit just by calories. So instead of saying just subtracting 250, if you want to be a little more aggressive, you can subtract 400 calories from that TDEE to give you that deficit. But like anything else, we have to apply those numbers for a couple weeks to even see if they're working. Mm-hmm. So once we have your calories, then we'll figure out your macros. And macros vary based on a lot of different things: your age, your sex, your current body composition, what your goals are. There are a lot of factors that go into how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbohydrates and fats. And I can kind of give you a range based on where you can start. But there are a lot of individual things that go into calculating your ideal macronutrient content.
And it just kind of brings up something in my mind that we hear a lot, and like I think people focus on the wrong thing with exercise sometimes, because we encounter a lot of people that come in asking about like how many calories they're going to burn in a workout, and they base their diet around like how many calories they're burning,
right,
instead of thinking about like just what they need out of their food.
Yeah.
And it's just this, I think it's just focusing on the wrong thing. Like, use your workouts to improve your body composition by positive. Stimulating muscle growth and like helping stress relief and all that stuff, and stop worrying so much about how hard you're going so you can burn calories. Like,
right.
I think that's
well, that brings up a great point. So that's a mindset approach. That's an attitude, or kind of a thought process that you relate to eating and exercising. And
it's like this offset thing, like I
ate this crappy
food, so like I need to work out extra hard.
Right, or I'm dieting right now, or I'm not dieting right now.
Yeah, how about your food supports your workout instead of you trying to cancel stuff out?
Right.
I think
or like
healthier.
let's say you go a little over your calories and macros that day. You're like, fuck it, I'm gonna eat an entire pizza. Like, well, okay, that's a little extreme. It's like, I'll start again Monday. So that kind of leads us into the flexible dieting approach. A lot of people think flexible dieting is a eating protocol. Flexible dieting is a frame of mind. It's a state of mind. It's an approach. It's how you think about how you're eating and training. Flexible dieting means you don't put any black and white parameters on how you eat or how you train. Right? You're flexible. You're laid back.
Isn't that where I can eat a bunch of donuts?
No. So flexible dieting would mean kind of related to, let's say you went over on your macros, or you had a couple drinks that day and you've gone over on your macros. It's all right. It's okay to still be mindful and be a little over, and just be okay with that. And tomorrow's another day, you'll get back on track. But when people don't have a flexible approach to eating and nutrition, and they're so rigid and so hard on themselves, and they place so many rules and regulations on the things that they do, when they don't do those things, they don't stick to those rules, it's like they're totally off the wagon.
Yeah, and then they're stressed. And then it's
and
like
they create this very bad negative relationship with eating and with exercise, and it becomes about punishment and burning and negating and crossing everything out. Whereas it should be, look, I'm exercising because it feels good and it's good for me. And
if you have a bad workout, do you just stop going to the gym?
Yeah, no. Right. Well, you shouldn't. Some people do.
I would hope not.
So flexible dieting is a frame of mind. It's not just macros. You can be a flexible dieting frame of mind and still take the habit-based approach of the PALM method, right? It's just about being okay with having some leniency and going with the flow, having some bumps, and just getting right back on the wagon.
Enjoy yourself when you can.
Yeah, without freaking out, know, and doing these like extremely restrictive phases, and then binging, gaining all the weight back, and doing these very extreme cleanses and detox and all that shit that shouldn't be done in the first place. So kind of that being said, if you are taking a macro approach, we figure out your macros. I have this, which is from Eric Helms. Eric Helms is great when it comes to flexible dieting and taking a macro approach. If you want to learn more about flexible dieting, I highly recommend you research him. But he's come up with kind of like this 3-tiered compliance like rules, which there's good, better, and best when it comes to hitting your macros. So best is being within 5 to 10 grams of your allotted macros for the day, right? That's best. He's saying if you want the best results, if you want to, have the best consistency with your progress, aim to be 5 to 10 grams of your macros every single day, okay? Then you have better, which is hitting your protein. So let's say you had a goal of getting 150 grams of protein, you have your other macros. Better would be absolutely hitting your protein, but then having flexibility of maybe carbs and fats kind of went out of the window, but you still overall hit your calories for the day.
Okay, so they may kind of teeter-totter back and forth.
Right, the carbs and fats, you can play back and forth. That's when alcohol comes into play, right? Because you can kind of sub out carbs and fats for alcohol. And then good is just simply hitting your calories. Like your macros are all fucked up, but at the end of the day, you hit your calories.
Yeah.
Right. And when it comes to kind of the hierarchy of the most important things that affect your ability to change your body composition, calories are going to be the first thing, foundation. That's why we have to figure that out first. So whether you're overeating or undereating, we have to fix that first. We have to figure out how many calories you need to eat. That's about 50% of the equation. So I don't care if your macro percentages are on, right? It's like, yeah, of the food I ate though, I had 30 this, 35 that, you know, but you're still under eating or you're still overeating. So at the end of the day, calories first, then come the macros.
Okay.
So, but again, those are way more advanced approaches to eating. I'd say that has to do, one, with the habits you've been able to do consistently for the past couple weeks, couple months, then you can kind of move on to macros. And two, your personality. If you're the type of person that thrives in a very structured environment, you like rules and consistency and a lot of structure, then macros would be a good approach for you. If you're the type of person that stresses out very easily with a lot of rules and structure like that, then maybe taking the habit-based approach would be
keep it simple.
Better for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else about, we get asked a lot about whether we subscribe to paleo diet.
Yeah, that was a hot one, especially
what's
when the
clean, and that's a very
community.
vague term.
So, and this is very important as far as your quality of food, right? So let's say we do take the macronutrient approach and you have a certain amount of proteins, carbs, and fats. It is absolutely important that those budgets of protein, carbs, and fats get used by high quality food, okay? Don't let the if it fits your macros become an excuse to eat really crappy foods that aren't good for you, right? We want to take an approach that supports your body composition, your performance, and your health.
Yeah, not just body composition.
Right.
Because you can get a decent body composition.
You can get shredded off of shit food. You can.
But what is happening inside your system when you're constantly
physiologically
feeding it refined sugar and all this stuff?
Exactly.
So don't go off the deep end with that.
Right.
Like, we still want to prioritize healthy.
Yeah. Now the
food.
Macros, if it fits your macros, gives you the freedom to, hey, let's say if you did have that, couple slices of pizza or that cookie or whatever, you can make it work, but it's not something you want to make a habit of. You want the majority of your macronutrients to come from great sources like lean cuts of protein. You want good carbohydrates like rice and potatoes and vegetables and fruit.
Generally,
oats.
Things that are close to nature, right?
Yeah.
Like
keeping the perimeter approach.
Not packaged, not processed. Just whole foods.
Right.
That's
so
really
I guess you can
simple.
say you can make paleo foods, whatever your interpretation is, into
paleo treats.
the macronutrients. The vegetables and color in your diet is really, really important, regardless of what your macros are.
Yeah.
But just saying I subscribe to a paleo diet doesn't work, because at the end of the day, it's still important as to how many calories you're eating. So you can overeat great quality of food and still be overeating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, it's nut butter, it's cashew butter. Like, you can't sit there and eat tablespoon after tablespoon of cashew butter. It's paleo.
Well, just like if you were a vegan, there's lots of vegan food out there that's not healthy. It's just overprocessed. So just being vegan doesn't make you healthy.
No.
And just following paleo doesn't mean you're doing it right.
Right.
And really, paleo is not something that is broadly acceptable for everybody. Like, it was meant more as help for people that have autoimmune disease or disorders, because it helps cut out a lot of things that might cause flare-ups.
Yeah, a lot of inflammation.
So that can be very good if you have those disorders, but it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're a CrossFitter that you need to subscribe to paleo. And in fact, in a lot of cases, it doesn't work great for people.
No, because it's naturally lower in carbohydrates if you're following classic paleo protocols.
Yeah.
So
and it can be a good diet, but when done right.
Yeah,
so.
Or clean eating, that's just another very general term for...
It means nothing.
No one can really define that. So, I eat clean. It's like, well, what does that mean?
Keep it close to nature. Keep it whole foods.
Right.
And you don't have to subscribe to a diet. Just have a way of eating that's healthy and balanced and supports your lifestyle and doesn't stress you out.
Yeah. Pay attention. What is happening with your body? Just use common sense. I'm going to eat this way for a certain amount of time. Do it consistently. How does it make me feel? Is it bringing me closer to my goals or further? If it's bringing you further, you need to change something, right? Is this something I can sustain over time? Can you see yourself eating this way for 3 months, 6 months? If not, don't even do it. Don't even do it.
Yeah, don't commit to some 30-day extreme diet and then just
like the Whole
afterward.
Foods or the 30-day Whole Food Challenge or whatever, 21-day sugar detox. The idea is great. I love the idea that people are attempting to cut out typical problematic foods and kind of step away from the processed things and figure out what foods kind of go with your system and don't. But the whole idea of like this at the end of the 21 days or at the end of 30 days, I'm gonna just eat like that. No, and that's what everyone does. That's what everyone does. They go on this very extreme thing.
I'm going to quit after 30 days, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, like, it has a good intention.
Right.
But, I mean, we're basically saying, like, after 30 days...
You want 30-day results or you want 12-month results, right?
So
just contracts, though.
Just try to implement the basics. And I think Nicole hit on a lot of stuff that you can just start doing. Just all that basic stuff with water and protein and just being super simple with that stuff. And then if you want to take it a step further... You know, we do nutrition coaching here. We do help with those habit-based approaches.
Sure.
And that's if you need that extra accountability, find somebody like that. Come to us, whatever it is. There's a lot of services out there. But that will help with accountability if that's where you struggle.
Definitely.
So, did you have anything to wrap up with?
No, not really. Just, you know, there are a lot of ways that people find success. Just making sure that when you're deciding on whatever diet or protocol or methods that it makes sense, right? Is it sustainable? Is it healthy, right? Does it make you happy? Does it work with your lifestyle? Don't commit to something that you know it's, you know, if you're saying I have to eat every 2 hours and you know you have crazy night shifts and it's not possible, and then you stress out so much about not eating every 2 hours, and then all of a sudden that stress is way worse than the diet you're doing before. So just make sure it's practical.
And I don't want to go into a huge tangent, but I'm just going to throw something out there. If you're going from like not knowing what you're doing with nutrition to trying to follow a bodybuilding or bikini competitor approach to dieting, just stop right there.
Like, it's a lifestyle that I fucking hate that.
Don't even go there. That is not, unless you're planning on going on stage, it does not apply to your lifestyle or you or your health.
You don't have to eat broccoli, brown rice, and tilapia every 3 hours.
You don't need to bulk and cut and do all this stuff and deprive yourself. Just don't even go there. So I don't want to get Nicole fired up for another 30 minutes.
I don't get fired.
Just please don't do that. It doesn't make sense for a normal lifestyle. If you don't want to be on stage in a bikini, just don't even go there. But anyways, should that be it?
No, I'm just going to stop talking.
All right, so follow Elevate St. Pete on YouTube. Also watch that supplements episode that we talked about. That was last episode, so check that out. It's pretty fun. It ran a little long, but we do talk about beaver butt juice, so just pay attention to that.
I'll post some of the things I mentioned about the PALM method, your activity level when it comes to applying to your BMR, and just some great sources for you guys to dive into to do some further research if it kind of sparks some interest for you.
Yeah, so hit us up if you have questions on that stuff. I'm sure you will.
Yep.
And then we'll see you next week for another episode of Coffee Talk. Thanks for watching.
See ya.